Who is the most delusional person you've known? I work in a small town radio station. I've seen lots of rookies fresh out of broadcast school let the tiny amount of fame they get from being on a small town radio station go to their head. This one guy came into work one day, madder than heck that small town radio famous wasn't famous enough to get him out of a speeding ticket. Worked a night job where I met someone who was studying rather than going to school. Eventually I got out of him that he was studying to be a seducer. He studied Cleopatra, Rasputin, Casanova, etc. to learn the art of seduction. Basically this guy's life plan was to just seduce his way through life. He had an intricate plan on how he was going to seduce our supervisor for a raise, seduce multiple spouses to support him, even how to get free coffee by seducing the barista. He must have done a lot of seducing to keep working that barely over minimum wage night job for years. My brother was always bragging about how chicks he worked with wanted to duck him. Then after 2 or 3 months, when he inevitably quit or got fired, whenever the guys were talking about chicks they hooked up with, he would always talk about these beautiful women that wanted him which he just never got around to hooking up with. One time after starting a new job, he comes home all excited and yells, "Holy shit. The receptionist at this place is gorgeous and guess what? She wants to duck me." I said, "Dude, you've been there one day. How do you know she wants to duck you?" So he says, "Well, I just walked through the front door and as I was passing by, she looks me dead in the eye and says, 'Good morning.'" My current boss. He thinks the business is doing okay or is in a rough spot. He's slowly choking and killing it with his managing. I see the shop closing mid to late August. The pastor of a church who believed that he was his own words God's gift to preaching, even though attendance was dropping precipitously, when told that his sermons were too long and meandering, and that the people wanted more prayer to God instead. He replied, "People don't come to church for God, they come to hear what I have to say." My aunt, my mom's sister. She constantly stirs drama with other people and then calls you out for being mean to her. WTF lady. For example, one time I came outside and I see her pull up in her car. She starts chit-chatting to my mom. They are talking about her haircut. I tell my mom we needed to go and she drove away shortly after. Totally fine. I get a call from another relative a week later that she's angry with me because the day she came over I rolled my eyes at her and she reads lips. She knows I said something about her. This didn't happen. She then continues to post on social media how karma is gonna get me, while simultaneously commenting on all of my stuff, saying how cute my daughter is. Delusion. A very good friend of mine comes from a super rich family. His dad recently bought $1 million home to sell it to him for under $300K. He thinks his family isn't that wealthy, and this isn't that abnormal. My little sister. Me and my eldest sister were raised by an alcoholic mother who left us with random people so she could get drunk. When I was about 6, my mom sobered up and had my little sister. The girl is delusional and has adopted the idea that she went through what me and my older sister went through. She recalls memories that never happened. She swears my mom beat her. Never happened. She makes up stories like she was a mortician. She traveled around the world. She dated such and such and had tons of money. It's so weird. She spends every waking moment on Facebook and posts every single thing that goes on in her life. She has a felony. She beat her baby daddy until they broke up and now both of those psychos have a really shitty custody fight going on. I could go on and on. My schizophrenic uncle. He ran away from home US in his teens to Turkey, converted to Islam, came home a few years later, believed he was the son of God, and robbed a bank so he could give the money to the homeless in the city we live in. He was institutionalized for many years, was released one day with no notice to our family, and died shortly thereafter of an accident caused by his mental illness. This dude who used to live near me. There is a laundry list of stories, but 2 gems are, when he took those fake $1 billion bills you get at Halloween from church groups to Walmart, filled 8 shopping carts with random expensive stuff, mostly electronics, and tried to buy them with the money. Or when after the cops being called for him shooting our much younger neighbor with an airsoft gun, he grabbed a samurai sword and charged at the cops. Spoiler alert, he got tased. He later told us if they shot at him, he would cut the bullets in half like Ryan Reynolds did in X-Men Origins Wolverine. My ex-boyfriend plays the victim to his friends and family, yet I have spoken to 2 of his exes, and we've all called the cops on him at some point. He obsesses and stalks and harasses. He tried to break into my app once, after we broke up, to apologize to me, and tried to convince my roommate I was unstable and making rash choices. We've been broken up 7 months now. I have a new BF, and he still sends me emails saying I'm being unreasonable. I spent the first 11 months of my army career with this one guy who had absolutely no idea that everybody hated him. He had this horrible personality where he talked too loud, said duck all the time, stole shit and duck with people's stuff, and just seemed kind of like an alien trying to mimic heterosexual male interactions. But the alien had only studied bad sports movies and war films. He was incredibly cringy. Guy was raised by a single mother that clearly allowed him to get away with anything, and in the 11 months I knew him, I never once heard him take responsibility for anything. An example. We'll call him PH for dialogue purposes. We're in the lunch line, and he gets a big bowl of clam chowder soup. He spills a little over the side of the bowl and onto the tray, and we are like, looks like you spilled a bit. Keep in mind, we saw him spill it. PH no, I didn't spill it. Me who spilled it. PH duck. I don't duck in, no, I guess someone duck in knock me and made the bowl spill. As said, he swore all the time. You know you swear too much when a bunch of army dudes think you swear too much. Yeah. Literally can't take responsibility for spilling a little bit of soup on a tray. As said, though, the most delusional aspect of his personality was his complete inability to accept that nobody liked him. When our final course combat engineer training finished, and we were all about to get posted off to our respective units and bases across the country, he'd always talk about how he was going to hang with the people who were going the same place as him, and maybe be roommates with one of them. To the man, each one of them never wanted to see him ever again. It took on average about 2 weeks from the point of meeting him to completely despise him, and he was never once aware of, or willing to admit this. As said by one of our sergeants at the end of our course. At the course party, that kid's a ducking lunatic. Couldn't have said it better myself. Met a guy in the psych ward with psychosis who believed he was a prophet. Really nice guy. I have a quote written by him. Madness is not pure error, it is nature's dissatisfaction with genius. My grandmother was a nurse in a psych ward years ago, and she encountered a patient who was convinced he was the second coming of Jesus. He even talked like Jesus. She said, if I hadn't known he was nuts, I might have believed him. Guy at my college thought he was God's gift to women, just because he worked out daily. He looked more like an albino Dwayne Johnson with curly hair. It was like Casper took steroids and started hitting on anything that moved. That last sentence really made me feel like I could hate him and be justified in doing so. I've mentioned him in my comments many times before. He's my boyfriend's best friend in the whole world, and he's a ducking nutter. Sometimes it's funny to hear him explain his theories, but other times it's just sad and frustrating. I care about him, but often worry that he may be mentally ill. A few examples. The earth is flat, and that NASA and all other scientists are in on the secret and want to keep it from the public. They don't want us to know, because it somehow directly proves God's existence, and they don't want that. All ice cream starts as vanilla ice cream until you add flavors to it. He thinks that the absence of added flavor is vanilla. The government uses airplanes to spray us all with metal particles that make people have autism. Also related, he doesn't believe that regular clouds are made out of water vapor. He thinks that semen never leaves the female body after sexual intercourse, and that it collects in the uterus somewhere. If a woman has sex with multiple men over the course of her life, then her child will genetically be a mixture of all of those men. This is why he thinks God wants us to only have sex with our husband-wife. Do I even need to keep going? I think you get the picture. Editors requested. Here's a few more. Prior to his flat earth theory, when he still believed in space and NASA and whatnot. He saw a photo of what looked like the claw hand of a Jurassic Park dinosaur in the corner of a photo taken from Mars. This was clearly a clickbait bullshit internet photo, but he believed it to be real. He said, "I think they got the whole creature on camera, but they are just showing us a hand, so that we don't all freak out at once." He told me that he thought a keto diet was just fat. Yes, you read that right. Just fat. I told him that's borderline impossible, because if you were to just eat fat you'd be eating essentially just olive oil and butter. So not only would you shit your brains out, but you'd also never get any vitamins or nutrients, which you need to live. He didn't understand. In a religious debate, how can you prove that Christianity is the religion of truth if every religion believes it is the truth? I told him it isn't solid evidence to use the Bible, because most religions have their own sacred scriptures that refute the Bible. If everyone believes their book, using yours won't make a difference. He told me I was being hormonal, and that's why I didn't see eye to eye with him. Satisfied yet? Alright, a few more, because it feels great to get a chance to share some of these. He recently informed me that God taught him that watering your grass will make it green. I told him that was just standard lawn maintenance and general knowledge, but argued that only those who know the Lord take the time to water their lawns. He doesn't understand what door-to-door salesmen are. One was at his house asking his grandfather the home owner for some info to complete an order he was making. He wanted his name, phone number, and exact address. My friend thought this was incredibly suspicious, that he just showed up, even though the guy had on a uniform and a marked vehicle, so he called the cops, who were very confused when they arrived. He firmly believes that fat people are fat because of cake, not trans fats, not excess sugar, not hidden calories and misleading portion sizes, just cake. If you pry further, he'll explain that there's nowhere you can go where you can't buy some form of cake. It's delicious and horrible for you. That's why people are so fat. Cake is too yummy and too easy to get. When I tried to tell him that, in a way, he's right, but it's more of an issue of junk food rather than just cake. He said, "You wouldn't know cause you've never been fat." I have, so I would know. We'll end this with my boyfriend's favorite. He thinks that the birds outside his window are watching him. Keep in mind, his house is 2 floors, and he is on the 2nd floor, which is right at eye level with the tree in their front yard, which has a huge bird feeder. And yet he thinks that for whatever reason these birds are obsessed with him and watch him 24/7. It's the vanilla ice cream one that's really bothering me. My little sister, who somehow got it into her head that we grew up in the ghetto, we didn't, and that it is okay to keep popping out kids with different baby daddies, because if God didn't want me to have babies, he wouldn't let me get pregnant. OMFG, I want to hit her in the face every time she says something like this. By the way, she is now pregnant with her 5th child, right after being a complete hypocrite when she got pregnant last year and had an abortion because she wanted a girl. She is finally having her girl, so hopefully she stops. And before I get a bunch of angry messages, she lives off the government. Baby daddies do not support their kids, so she brags about being a hustler. SMDH. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.